The storm howled like it had a voice of its own, lashing against the windows, rattling the tin roof, and roaring through the valley like an old god stirring in its grave. Cole Ramirez stood by the fire in his worn-down ranch house, the smell of smoke and dry wood curling around him like an old memory. He hadn't seen another soul in 3 months, and he liked it that way. Out here, the ghosts stayed quiet, the silence stayed loyal. But that night, the wind didn't bring just rain, it brought them. 7 figures, drenched, shimmering under the lightning, eyes glowing faintly against the backdrop of the storm. All women. All alien. All impossibly beautiful. "We mean no harm," the one in front said, voice trembling from cold or something deeper. "Please, just one night." He should have said no. He should have bolted the door. But her eyes, they weren't pleading. They were haunted. And he'd known that look too damn well. He stepped aside. That's when everything began to change. They stepped in single file, wet clothes clinging to bodies that looked sculpted by some divine hand. Blue skin, glistening, almost iridescent. They left puddles on his floor, but none of them spoke until the last closed the door softly behind her. The fire crackled louder, casting flickers of light across their faces, high cheekbones, delicate markings along their temples, eyes like molten silver. Cole's breath caught in his throat. Not just because they were stunning, but because they looked like something out of the war. The one he'd buried deep. The one no one dared speak about anymore. He cleared his throat. "There's blankets in the storage room. Dry clothes too, though they'll be a bit big." The leader, the one who had spoken at the door, nodded once. "We're grateful. You're human?" "Last time I checked," he muttered, folding his arms. "I am Alea. These are my sisters. We lost our way crossing the ridge. Our vessel, it was sabotaged." "Sabotaged," he repeated. She hesitated. "We don't seek trouble. Just shelter. One night. We'll be gone by morning." He should have asked more. Pushed harder. But instead, he just stared at her, at the scar above her left hip, the way her wet hair clung to her collarbone. The room suddenly felt too warm. "I'll get the stew on," he said gruffly. As the hours passed, the wind continued to thrash the walls, but inside, something fragile and strange began to grow. The women moved with grace, like they weren't used to being on solid ground. They sat close to the fire, whispering in a language he hadn't heard in years, a dialect used by the Allied races before the treaty was destroyed. Cole poured bowls of stew, handing them out one by one. When he offered a bowl to Alea, her fingers brushed his. Warm. Soft. Not cold like he expected. "Why are you really here?" he asked. She looked up at him, eyes searching. "Because we had nowhere else to go." He almost believed her. Almost. After dinner, the women found places to curl up. One lay on the couch. 2 others shared the far rug. Alea chose a spot near the fireplace, crossing her legs and leaning back against the wall, watching him. Studying him. He tried not to look, but his eyes kept drifting back. The way the firelight danced on her skin. The way her chest rose and fell, calm but alert. "You're not afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. "No," she said. "Should I be?" "Most people are," he said. She smiled faintly. "I'm not most people." He nodded, and silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken things. Then, she asked, softly, "Why do you live out here? Alone?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Because it's quieter than the dead." She didn't press. Instead, she whispered something to one of her sisters, who rose and moved toward the window, peering into the storm. "They're coming," the sister murmured. Cole stood up, alarm prickling his spine. "Who's coming?" But Alea only said, "It doesn't matter tonight." She rose to her feet slowly, the fabric of her soaked shirt clinging to her body, now mostly dry. She stepped toward him, carefully, like she was approaching a wild animal. "I know what you're thinking," she said. "Do you?" he asked, voice low. "You're thinking this is a mistake. That we're dangerous. That will bring trouble to your quiet little life." She was close now. Too close. He could feel the heat off her skin. "And are you?" he murmured. "Dangerous?" She tilted her head. "Only if touched." She reached up slowly, fingers brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. It was the most intimate touch he'd felt in years. And he didn't pull away. A crash of thunder shattered the moment, and one of the other women cried out. Alea turned, eyes sharp. Cole moved to the door and looked out. Nothing but darkness and rain. But deep in the valley, he thought he saw the flicker of movement, metal, glinting. "We'll talk in the morning," Alea said. But something in her voice told him they wouldn't be here by then. As he closed the door, locking it behind him, he felt a shift, like the world outside the ranch was no longer so far away. That night, as he lay awake in his bed, the sounds of their quiet breathing filling the small house, he knew sleep wouldn't come. Not with her scent still on his skin. Not with the questions flooding his mind. And not with the strange truth burning inside him. He didn't want them to leave. And he had no idea what that would cost. Morning came in silence. The storm had passed, but it left the land soaked, the air damp and heavy. Pale sunlight filtered through the cracked blinds of the ranch house, casting lines across the wooden floor. Cole was already up, boots on, eyes locked on the valley through his old binoculars. He didn't say anything at first, but he knew they were still out there. Whoever, or whatever, the women were running from, it hadn't vanished with the rain. Behind him, he heard soft footsteps. One of the women, no, Alea. She moved like she didn't want to be seen, but also like she knew he'd be watching anyway. "You didn't sleep," she said gently. "No," Cole replied, not turning. "There's coffee in the pot," she offered. That made him glance over his shoulder. Sure enough, she had found the rusted coffee tin, filled it with rainwater from the collector, and brewed a batch like she'd done it 100 times. "You used the real stuff," he muttered. She shrugged, handing him a steaming cup. "You gave us shelter. I repay in small ways." He studied her again, this time not like an intruder, but like a riddle. She had braided her damp hair, exposing the subtle ridges of silver markings along her neck and collarbone. Cultural? Genetic? He couldn't be sure. But they weren't scars. They shimmered like history etched into skin. "You spoke a dialect last night," he said finally. "Old. From the treaty years." Her expression didn't change, but her hand tensed slightly around the cup. "You understood it. Enough." She sipped from her own mug, eyes drifting to the window. "We didn't think there were humans left who remembered." "There aren't many," he said. "But I fought in that war. Lost too much not to remember." That silence stretched again. But this time, something was shared in it. A weight. A knowing. "My husband died in that war," she said quietly. Cole's chest tightened. "Human?" "Yes," she said. "Most of ours were." Alea walked to the window, looking out across the wet fields. The other widows were out there, moving quietly, helping with the ranch chores like it came naturally. One was mending a fence with remarkable speed. Another carried heavy water containers as if they weighed nothing. They were graceful, powerful, efficient. But more than anything, they looked like they belonged. "We weren't just widows," Alea said softly. "We were bonded. Life partners under oath. Our memories are merged with theirs." Cole turned toward her, eyebrows narrowing. "You carry the memories of your husbands?" She nodded. "Fragments. Dreams. Emotions. Even touches, sometimes they come back like lightning." "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because you're not like the others," she whispered. "You're still broken in the right places. That means something." He felt the edge of her truth slide under his skin. It scared him more than any enemy did. Later that day, while checking the generator behind the barn, Cole found something strange, an object half buried in mud. Cylindrical. Small. Metallic. He wiped it clean. A symbol etched on the side made his stomach twist. It was a tracking node. Military grade. Council issued. He marched straight back to the cabin, bursting through the door. The women stood at once, ready, alert, not startled. "Want to explain this?" he growled, tossing the node onto the table. Alea stared at it for a moment. Then slowly sat down. "So they found us. I knew someone was following you," Cole said. "I just didn't know you let them." "We didn't," she replied. "But the council always finds ways." We've been running for 3 cycles. From what? A pause. Then she said, from truth. Cole looked around the room. The others stared at him, not with fear. With patience. As if they'd already decided he would understand, whether he wanted to or not. Alea stood again and walked to a hidden seam in her coat. She drew out a small crystal drive and placed it in his palm. That's what we carry. That's what they're willing to kill for. What's on it? Proof, she said. Proof that the war was never about peace or unity. That it was designed to eliminate our kind. And the humans who stood beside us. Cole stared at the drive. His fingers closed around it slowly. You're not just survivors, he whispered. You're rebels. We're all that's left, she said. Outside, a gust of wind pushed against the walls. Dust blew past the windows. A shadow crossed the sky, but when Cole looked, there was nothing. Just the feeling that something was drawing closer. Later that night, after dinner, the women relaxed in a circle on the rug, talking in whispers, laughing softly. It didn't feel like a war zone. It felt like a family. Cole stood near the back door, watching the stars emerge above the hills. He didn't hear her come up behind him. You're thinking again, Alea said. I do that sometimes. She stepped closer, shoulder brushing his. He didn't move away. You're not afraid of us anymore, she said. I don't know what I am, he murmured. Alea looked up at the stars, then at him. When I touched your skin last night, I felt something. You want connection. But you don't trust yourself to keep it. He swallowed. I've lost everyone who ever needed me. And yet you still opened your door. A long pause. Then, softly, what happens if I let myself care again? Her fingers reached for his, gently interlacing them. Then you live again. Their lips met before he could second-guess it. A soft, trembling kiss, hungry, searching, filled with years of silence breaking apart. Her hands ran along his chest, and he pulled her closer, breath hitching as her warmth pressed into him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel hollow. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. And for the first time in years, he wanted morning not to come. But somewhere in the valley, lights flickered unseen to them both. And something was coming. The night air was thick with heat, though not from the fire. Cole lay on his back, eyes fixed on the wooden ceiling beams above. Beside him, Alea's slow, measured breathing stirred the skin of his shoulder. Her arm lay across his chest, and the sheets tangled around their bare legs like vines. He should have felt guilt, fear, regret. But all he felt was her. There was something unspoken in the way she held him, like she had needed this as long as he had. Not just touch, not just desire, but connection, trust. The ancient, fragile thing that neither of them had dared speak aloud since the world broke. Cole turned toward her. Her eyes were open. Watching him. Always watching. Do you feel it too? He asked. Yes, she whispered. He didn't ask what it was. They both already knew. A soft knock came from the hallway. Neither of them moved. A voice, Velra's, the younger widow, slipped through the wood. Something's wrong. Come see. Cole slid out of bed, pulling his shirt over bare skin. Alea dressed quickly beside him. They followed Velra outside into the chilled night. The stars had dimmed, as if dust were suspended in the air, choking the sky. Out by the northern ridge, strange lights blinked, steady, slow, methodical. Patrol drone, Velra said. Council grade. Cole cursed under his breath. They're close. We should leave, Alea said. But there was something uncertain in her voice. You told me this place was a stop. Just one night, he said. So why are you hesitating now? She didn't answer. Because you don't want to leave, he said. Her silence was enough. Velra glanced between them, her expression unreadable. We can't stay, Alea. You know what happens if they find him with us. I know, she murmured. They all stood there for a moment, the night stretching out around them. Somewhere far off, a wolf howled, except wolves hadn't been native to this planet. Not in years. They were being watched. By morning, Cole had made a decision he never thought he'd make again. He led them to the old smuggler's tunnel, a narrow, winding route cut beneath the rock during the border wars. Few people even knew it existed anymore. The entrance had been caved in, but Cole had spent the last 2 years quietly clearing it, just in case the past ever came clawing. "You kept this secret?" Alea asked, following him down the narrow stone path lit by lanterns. "We all keep something," he replied. "Some men hoard credits. I hoard exits." They moved quickly, 6 of the women ahead, Velra trailing behind with weapons drawn, eyes sharp. Alea remained beside Cole, close enough that their shoulders touched as they walked. "We didn't mean to involve you," she said softly. "You didn't," he replied. "I involved myself. I didn't expect." She hesitated. "You make it hard to leave." He stopped, turning to face her in the dim, flickering light. "Then don't. Cole. Whatever war you're in, I'm in it now too. You think I care about the council anymore? About surviving in silence while the world burns? I'm tired of hiding. Tired of pretending I'm already dead." Alea's hand rose to his cheek. "You don't know what you're offering. They erase people like you. Then I'll die knowing I mattered to someone again." Their lips met again, this time urgent, heavy with risk. His hands gripped her waist as hers tangled in his hair. Somewhere down the tunnel, Velra coughed loudly. "We don't have time for mating rituals," she muttered. They broke apart, breathless, and continued. At the end of the tunnel, a hidden chamber waited, half laboratory, half storage unit, a leftover relic from the war days. There, inside a concealed vault, Alea retrieved a second data crystal, larger, with glowing veins running through it. "What's that?" Cole asked. "The key to dismantling the council," she replied. "It holds the coordinates to every erased colony, every silenced alliance, every vanished rebel cell. If it gets to the right hands, we can expose everything." "You think the galaxy will care?" he asked bitterly. "No," she said. "But enough will. And that's how change begins." Just as she sealed the vault again, alarms shrieked in the distance, piercing and artificial. "Perimeter breached," Velra said, spinning toward the exit. Cole grabbed the old rifle off the wall, preloaded and wrapped in canvas. "Stay here," he told the women. "We won't," Alea said, stepping in front of him. "You're not doing this alone." Before he could argue, a deafening boom rocked the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. Another explosion followed, closer. "Breach team," Velra shouted. 4, maybe 5. Cole's mind shifted into instinct. Combat mode. Every scar, every haunted memory from the war, it returned like a long-lost lover. He positioned the women behind steel crates, tossing them older weapons he'd buried in storage. "This place is a trap," Alea hissed. "Then we make it theirs," he growled. The first soldier came through, helmeted, armored, rifle raised. Cole fired without hesitation. The blast tore through the man's chest plate, dropping him. 3 more entered behind, spreading out. Lasers lit the chamber, sizzling into metal and stone. Velra and 2 of the other widows returned fire with uncanny precision, targeting weak points in the armor, disabling joints, neutralizing optics. But the enemy wasn't here for battle. They were here for extraction. One of them grabbed for Alea, pulling her by the wrist. Cole roared and tackled him from behind, slamming the butt of his rifle into the soldier's helmet until it cracked. The 2 tumbled to the ground. The soldier's knee found Cole's ribs, but Alea was free. She turned and shot the soldier point blank. Silence fell. Bodies sprawled across the stone floor. Smoke curled in the air. And Cole, bleeding, panting, gripping his side, looked at her. "You okay?" he asked. She knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his wound. "You stupid, beautiful human." He laughed, weakly. "You finally called me beautiful." She pressed her forehead to his. "You always were." Behind them, Velra raised her head sharply. "More coming. Bigger ships." "We can't stay." Cole's hand reached for Alea's. "No more running," he whispered. "We make our stand, or we burn together." She nodded, tears streaking her dusty cheeks. "I'll die beside you, Cole Ramirez." "But not today," he whispered back. And somewhere deep in the silence, beneath the rubble and the ruin, she leaned forward, kissed him with fire, and the world, for a moment, felt like it was worth saving. The wind howled again, but this time, it wasn't the storm. It was the thunder of engines, council dropships descending from the clouds like vultures. Cole stood at the edge of the ridge above the smuggler's tunnel, rifle slung across his back, eyes squinting into the rising dust. He didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Not anymore. Alea stood beside him, her face streaked with ash and defiance. Behind them, the other 6 widows were sealing the data crystal inside a protective carrier, one designed for deep space launches. Time was running out. But they weren't done fighting. "They're scanning for life forms," Velra reported, her voice tight. "We have 10 minutes. Maybe less." Cole nodded. "Then let's give them a reason to look the other way." "No," Alea said. "We can't lose you." "You're not losing me," he said quietly. "You're finishing what you started. And I'm giving you the chance to do it." She grabbed his hand, fingers trembling. "Don't speak like that. We only just." He silenced her with a kiss. Not out of desperation, but certainty. It was the kind of kiss that sealed a vow. That said, "If this is the end, I'd rather spend it with your lips on mine than in silence." When they parted, her eyes were full of pain. But not fear. "Not anymore. You changed me, Alea," he said. "And I won't let this world erase you like it erased everyone else." She reached into her belt, pulled out a small silver ring alien in design, shimmering with a pulse of light, and pressed it into his palm. "This held my husband's memories," she said. "Now, it holds yours." Then she turned and walked away. And Cole turned toward the dust. As the dropships landed with shrieking thrusters, council troopers poured out armored, faceless, merciless. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't give warnings. They were here to cleanse, not question. Cole stepped out from the rocks and raised his weapon. "Easy, boys," he called. "This here's private land." The first soldier fired. Cole ducked behind cover, rolled, and returned fire. He knew he couldn't win, not alone. But that wasn't the point. He was buying seconds. Seconds that would mean everything. Inside the launch chamber below, Alea and the others initiated the datapod ignition. The launch tube shook. The crystal core sealed with a hiss. "Trajectory confirmed," Velra said. "Planet, Rhodia 7. Outer resistance hub. They'll know what to do." Alea hesitated. "And Cole?" "He knew," one of the sisters said. "He always knew." A final explosion rocked the mountain. The walls cracked. Light spilled from above, shadows dancing across the chamber. "Launch it," Alea shouted. The pod blasted upward through the escape shaft, fire trailing behind like a comet. It shot into the sky, past the clouds, past the reach of weapons, and vanished. Above ground, Cole was on one knee, blood on his cheek, rifle empty. The council commander stepped forward, weapon raised. "You aided fugitives," the synthetic voice said. Cole laughed, dry and full of spite. "You call them fugitives. I call them freedom." The commander didn't reply. He raised his gun. But the ground erupted. The hidden charges Alea and her sisters planted detonated, swallowing the ridge in a wall of fire. The troopers scattered. The commander vanished in the blast. From below, the widows emerged, covered in soot and firelight. Alea sprinted toward Cole's fallen body. "No, no, no, no," she whispered, collapsing beside him. But he was alive. Barely. "Damn," he muttered through cracked lips. "Missed the whole fireworks show, didn't I?" She laughed through tears. "You stupid, stubborn, beautiful man." Velra appeared behind them, her expression soft. "We have to move. Before the second wave comes." Together, they lifted Cole, wrapping his arm over Alea's shoulder. Step by step, they moved toward the backup craft hidden in the canyon basin. As the sun rose behind the burning ridge, the 7 alien widows and one broken, beautiful man disappeared into the golden light. Fugitives, lovers, rebels, and something more. A week later, aboard a resistance ship orbiting Rhodia 7, Cole stood in a corridor with a view of the stars. His body was healing. Slowly. But his soul, after all this time, felt awake again. Alea came up behind him, arms wrapping around his waist. He leaned into her touch, closed his eyes. They decoded the crystal, she said. The truth is spreading. Good, he murmured. Let the bastards drown in it. She turned him around. We made it. He kissed her forehead. We did. Then she stepped back, took his hand, and guided it to her stomach. He blinked. What's this? Her eyes glistened. Something new. Something yours. He stared. Then smiled. Slow. Disbelieving. I thought your kind couldn't. We couldn't, she said. Until now. He pulled her close, forehead against hers. Then I guess we're not alone anymore. Somewhere in the distance, a new world was calling. And this time, they would build it together.